Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into the whole idea of belonging, but maybe not in the way you'd expect.
No, not at all. We're looking at a single, really potent source document, a speech from 1977 by Sun Myung Moon called To Whom Do I Belong?
And this was delivered in Belvedere, New York, to a crowd that was, well, it was from all over. Japan, Korea, Europe, America.
Exactly. And what's so striking is how it starts. Right away, he starts talking about boundaries.
Yeah, boundaries between nations, property lines there in Terrytown,
Yeah.
and even the one right inside of us, the mind versus the body.
It's an immediate challenge. You're forced to ask, okay, beyond all these divisions, where do I really belong?
So our mission for this deep dive is to pull out the philosophy he's laying down. And it's surprising. It's this whole roadmap where love and sacrifice have to keep expanding.
All the way out to the whole world first, and only then do you circle back to God. It's a very systematic and, frankly, a very demanding argument.
And it kicks off with the most basic idea of all, the heart.
The heart.
So when we think about belonging to a higher power, we often think about, authority or maybe utility. But Moon says no. If you want to belong to God, you don't aim for his power or his knowledge. You have to aim for his heart.
Right. And that distinction is it's everything in this framework.
Why, though? Why is that so critical?
Well, because power and knowledge are just tools. They're the means to an end. But the heart is the source of the decision itself. It's the ultimate center point.
Okay, so if you connect with God's knowledge, that could change. His power could be used somewhere else.
Precisely. But his heart is the constant. It's the non-negotiable essence of existence, really. Belonging isn't about connecting to a function. It's about connecting to his very being.
That makes sense. And he uses that analogy, the one about the opposite sex, to really drive it home.
He does. And it's very direct. If you're looking for a partner, you're not really after their bank account or, their PhD. You are seeking their heart.
Right. If you admit you're just after the money, something's wrong. You're prioritizing the means over the end.
Exactly. So that makes the priority for belonging crystal clear. And then he immediately turns that lens inward on ourselves.
Asking if our own mind and body are in, what does he call it, complete oneness?
Yes, or are they split? Are you leaning toward the godly side or what he calls the worldly, more evil side?
What's the actual difference between those two sides here?
It's basically a choice. The godly side is all about universal contribution aligning with God's purpose for the entire world. The worldly side is about limited consumption.
So like clinging to your own comfort, your self-interest.
Exactly. And that's where oneness comes in. Oneness means standing in God's position. So if God's heart wants to go to Africa to save people, but you're clinging to him saying, no, stay here in comfortable America with me.
You've just broken the oneness.
Instantly. Your direction has to match the direction of God's heart. And that direction is always global.
Okay, so the heart is the goal. How do we get there? This is where it gets, for me, really counterintuitive. He talks about this massive detour you have to take.
The parent-child analogy. This is so critical to understanding the whole philosophy of indirect belonging.
So explain that.
He says, great parents don't just want their child to love them and nobody else. They tell the child, go out, love your siblings, love your neighborhood, love your whole nation, gain the respect of the world.
And then come back and love us.
Yes, then come back. But that goes against, every religious impulse, right? Most faiths say, love the source, love God directly. Run straight to the center.
So why a detour? Why is that mandated?
It's all about stability and representation. By loving the wider world first, the child earns respect. That makes their position as a central figure way more stable. And the parents, as the center, can now reach the whole world through that child.
So the love gets multiplied.
It gets multiplied, exactly. And the child, because they've embodied that huge scope, is now worthy of representing the center.
Which leads right into what he calls the God test. If God calls out, those who love me step forward, the impulse is to run right to him.
And that's the wrong answer. That straight line is seen as a selfish act. It's a limited, consuming love.
God to say what? I'm bigger than America. I'm bigger than Africa.
Why don't you turn around and love those people and bring them with you? See, the whole point is that God is defined by his global scope. To connect with him, you have to embody that scope first.
So you reach him later, but you bring everyone with you. That's what pleases him.
Because his love is multiplied. And that's how you secure your place in his heart for eternity. It's a strategic detour for collective fulfillment.
This then leads to something you call the initiative paradox, which is, do you belong to God or does God belong to you?
Right. It's a radical idea. If you're just following orders, you belong to God. Simple enough.
About that.
But if you take the initiative, if you say, go to the farthest corner of Africa to help people who have never even heard of God, you are pushing the boundary of love so far that God is, in a way, compelled to follow you.
So your selfless act creates a kind of moral obligation for the divine.
Yes. You've acted out the widest possible scope of God's own heart before he even had to command it. So when God looks at your work and says, you have done a good job, you can actually claim that God belongs to you.
Because he had to affirm the path that you forged through your own sacrifice.
It's a remarkable claim. It puts the burden of moral expansion entirely on the believer.
And that kind of thinking, that systematic expansion, has to lead to a pretty intense doctrine of sacrifice.
Oh, absolutely. He moves right from the philosophy to criticizing the religious practices of his time, specifically prayer.
He says that traditional Christian prayer, praying for your own church, your own family, your own well-being, that it can't be accepted.
Cannot, flat out, because God is always thinking about the whole world. So if your prayer has a smaller scope than God's concern,
it's going to fail. It can't be realized.
It's out of sync with reality. And so he lays out this very specific prayer hierarchy. You have to start with the widest circle and work your way in.
I must look for a nation through which we can save the whole world.
A church which can save the nation, a family which can save the church, and so on. The cosmic scope has to dictate every individual action.
So you're faced with a choice then. You can either love your family first, then society, and eventually God, or you do it the other way.
The sacrificial way, you forget about yourself, your family, you go to the ends of the earth, you love the whole world first, and then you work your way back.
And his conclusion is pretty blunt.
Unambiguous. Because God loves the whole world, he prefers the second way. He even says God would gladly sacrifice his own son or the church formed around his son to save the world.
Wow. Wait, so the individual, the family, even the church itself,
Yeah.
It's all expendable for the sake of the world.
Always. That is an astonishingly high bar, isn't it? It implies the movement itself has to be ready to dismantle its own structures if global needs require it.
It sounds like a system designed for constant self-negation, for intentional instability.
It is, because stability isn't found in protecting yourself. It's found in connecting with everyone else. If you love yourself first, he says, that just leads to greed, unhappiness, and you're exposed. There's no protection.
So what's the promise on the other side, if you do sacrifice yourself for the world?
Protection. A massive, multi-layered wall of love. The person who sacrifices for the world is protected by the world. And the world is protected by the nation by the community, and so on, all the way back to God.
So the most secure person isn't the one hiding in a bunker. It's the one who has pushed their boundaries out the furthest.
It's a completely inverted view of security, and it extends even to your enemy. The greatest patriot, he says, loves other nations, even enemy nations, more than his own.
The goal is always to win the heart.
If you fail to win the enemy's heart through sacrificial love, you've already lost the real battle.
And this wasn't just theory for him. He applied this directly to what the Unification Church was doing in 1977, which caused a lot of friction in the U.S.
A huge amount. And he talks about it openly. He says the opposition he faced came because he was defying the cultural norms. People expected him to come to America to take money from it.
But instead, he was bringing money and people from poorer nations like Korea and Japan to use in the wealthy U.S.
And then directing those resources globally. It was completely backwards to people. He'd argue that God doesn't want people getting cozy in their nice American homes. He'd prefer they sell their property and go help underdeveloped countries.
So it's a philosophy of active, almost disruptive resource redistribution.
Yes. He was urging members to focus on places like India, where people were starving, or Africa, where kids couldn't even go to primary school instead of getting comfortable. The whole goal was to fundraise in the U.S. to build universities and hospitals for underprivileged people around the world.
This vision of expansive love also demanded, well, the physical dismantling of racial boundaries.
Oh, absolutely. He states it very clearly. God wants the races mixed together in beautiful harmony, and his vision included marrying black, white, and yellow people together.
That was a very deliberate spiritual action for him.
Meant to break down man-made divisions and create a literal global family. And this wasn't just a general idea. For the individual, there was the three-nation mandate.
Which isn't just a travel suggestion.
Not at all. It's a philosophical requirement.
Yeah.
You had to go to at least 3 different countries in your lifetime to share this message. The whole point was to ensure you never become spiritually isolated or bound by just one national identity.
And then there's the final, Massive geopolitical goal, saving communism.
Right. And again, it's counterintuitive. The goal isn't to demolish the communist world. It's for a united, harmonious, democratic world to save it through love and initiative.
He even suggested sending Americans to the Soviet Union.
To be miniature Reverend Moons there,
Yeah.
the scope of love has to eliminate every boundary. National borders, passports, he calls them man's invention. He says in God's sight, when people are loved all over the world, we will not need passports to go from place to place.
The ultimate goal is to make physical borders irrelevant through love.
Precisely.
So, as we wrap this up, the one defining characteristic that keeps coming back from this speech is that constant pressure, this gravitational pull to always expand your scope of love.
To always think of the world and humanity first, before yourself, before your family, even before your own church. The principle is always detour, never shortcut.
And the promise attached to that radical expansion is total protection.
It is. He assures them, if you live this way, if you put the world first, you will never perish. You'll prosper. You'll be protected by this wall of love from God, the nation, society, the movement.
So the greatest security is found in the deepest self-sacrifice.
That's the core paradox, that true happiness and safety aren't found in self-preservation. They're found by willingly abandoning the self to embrace all of humanity. It turns the survival instinct completely upside down.
It really does. I mean, if he's asserting that a prayer focused just on your family or your denomination can't even be accepted because God's scope is global,
It forces you to ask a really fundamental question, doesn't it? For anyone listening today, what is the smallest scope of love or action that your own highest ideal would accept from you?